What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of the WCW Nitro Podcast. I'm your host. I'm Notorious One. I am Dom. I'm here with my man all the way down in Delaware. I am here with BDC. BDC, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Man, another week, another dollar, Brian.
That's it.
Straight up.
Let's talk some WCW.
Let's.
So this is episode 9 of WCW Monday Nitro, October 30th, 1995, but this is the follow-up from Halloween Havoc 1995. I'm going to go through what happened right quick. So, in your TV title match for Halloween Havoc 1995, Johnny B. Bad, he finally won the WCW TV title against Diamond Dallas Page.
Yes, sir.
He finally had. So, the storyline with that, we discussed briefly in the Nitro podcast Johnny B. Bad, he was supposed to go for the United States Championship against Sting on WCW Saturday Night, but he showed up late. And then when he finally did show up, Mean Gene was like, "Hey, well, where have you been?" Or Tony Schiavone, I forgot who it was. He said, "Oh, I had car trouble, blah, blah, blah." And DDP shows up. He's saying, "Oh, you got to get here early." Well, just talking that trash that DDP does. And then his man, Max Muscle, DDP's, he said, "Yeah, sucks that you have 4 flat tires." I only have 1 flat tire, and he clocks DDP, and then this is how we get this TV title match at Halloween Havoc 1995. So it was pretty interesting. So our next match, it was supposed to be Randy Savage versus Kamala. I don't know where the hell Kamala's at, but we get a substitution. It's the Zodiac. The Zodiac filled in for Kamala. They're still down the Dungeon of Doom. This match was real short, maybe about less than 2 minutes. And a fan got in the ring, and he was determined to take out Randy Savage. And Randy Savage didn't pay him no mind. Zodiac didn't pay him no mind, even though Zodiac was on the ground. The MVP of that match was Randy Pee Wee Anderson. He was choking that dude out. he did everything to get this man outside the ring, and he did, and it is what it was.
Yep, and for the record, it appears as though at this point Kamala had actually left WCW, which was the reason for the Zodiac filling in. He pulled a Vader and left WCW as well, except Vader got fired and Kamala just left.
All right, well, our next match is Kurosawa versus Road Warrior Hawk, and they showed that months ago that Kurosawa at Clash of the Champions, that he was, beating Hawk's ass and messed up both his shoulders. So Hawk wants revenge, and you know what? Kurosawa won with the interference of Colonel Robert Parker, and that was a short-lived match. We had Sabu and JL. You hear my dog barking in the background. You don't like Sabu.
Got that dog in him.
Yeah, Sabu, he gets the win over JL. We get Lex Luger versus Meng. Lex Luger won because of disqualification. So now you're going to get Macho Man and Lex Luger later on that night at Halloween Havoc. So, the tag match where we were looking forward to, Ric Flair and Sting versus Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman. So the thing with that is, before the show took place, Halloween Havoc 95, Ric Flair got jumped by Brian Pillman and Arn Anderson. So Sting started this match by himself, and then Flair finally came in, and he double-crossed Sting, just like we expected. So we get the reunion of the Four Horsemen.
Well, technically at this point it's
3, but they're still throwing up the 4s. Yep. And then after this, we get the match, the machines that we want to see. Yep. We get the sumo truck match, and we get Hogan versus the Giant on top of the roof. All you got to do is push him out the circle. Hogan pushed Giant out the circle, and he went flying off the damn roof. That's exactly what happened. My man went off the roof. You would think he'd be dead about that, but no.
Nah.
Man's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
We finally get Luger and Sting. We finally get Luger and Savage, and Savage wins. And then we get the main event again, Giant and Hogan. And the Giant wins by disqualification.
there's levels of left that that match went. But most of it will be spelled out in what happens in this episode of Nitro. You don't have to get too specific because it's going to get talked about. But yep, this is episode 9, and it is the Fallout from Halloween Havoc. It was at a well-known place known as the Hara Arena. It is well-known because, well, I don't know why it's well-known.
What's it called?
It's probably not. The Hara Arena. Hara.
Ain't well known.
Exactly.
ain't no Madison Square Garden, so.
This is out of Dayton, Ohio. And literally the opening segment as it was
with Mongo, Bobby, and Eric Bischoff. They all, the dogs dressed up, Pepe's dressed up. It's Halloween time. Yeah,
they were discussing some of the fallout from Halloween Havoc, and the main bit that they brought up was the fact that Macho Man was not able to wrestle. He was not cleared to wrestle. He took a beat down on during the Havoc, so he was not being cleared to wrestle. As a result, he had a match with Sergeant Craig Pitbull Pittman. He was replaced by Eddie Guerrero, and that's what leads us into our very first match. They did not do a whole lot of talking. They said that, and then we went right into the match.
All right. Well, our first match, like BDC said, we have Sergeant Craig Pittman versus Eddie Guerrero. And Pittman, he was that power plant trainer that, he'll make you look good. And he'll rough you up and make you look good. And he dominated Eddie Guerrero in this match. He dominated Eddie
Guerrero. He whooped Eddie something serious, but it was a good match. It was really good to see how Pittman could adapt to Guerrero's style, luchador style, and really just was like, okay, you give me your best shot, and I'm just gonna power the hell out of you, and that's essentially what he did. He was just all power all the time, but he did show off a little bit, and I like that. I like seeing that from him.
If you guys tune into this show right here, check out this match.
Yeah,
check out the overhead belly to belly Pittman did to Eddie Guerrero, not once but twice.
Oh my god!
Yo, he dumped his ass.
That was scary business.
Yeah.
The first time he did it, I was like.
Second time he did it, like, all right, you think he would capitalize? Nope, he didn't capitalize. Eddie, he won with some type of sunset flip counter.
Yeah. He did some like cross-legged counter from a sunset flip. It was a nice move, but after the way Pittman was beating that ass that whole match, I was like, how do you hold him for 3? How do you hold him? But
and you can still tell that Eddie Guerrero, he's still green at this moment.
Yep.
Like he can wrestle good, but he just don't. He's so out of place.
He's not polished yet.
No.
He's not polished yet.
No, he's definitely not tuned up yet. So we're seeing the evolution of Eddie Guerrero right here. We know what he became, and we know this is how he started out. Like, come on, you're gonna do it. We're gonna do it together.
And people see Latino Heat, see how he ended, and they're looking at how he begins. But what you will see as these episodes go down is the best version of Eddie Guerrero was actually the last version you see of him in WCW. Don't get me wrong, Latino Heat was great. Latino Heat, all that. But the best version of Eddie Guerrero you got was his heel turn and the guy he was in WCW before he went to WWE. At least that's my opinion. And you'll see it in time.
That LWO, and then
what they call the sleazeball version of Eddie Guerrero. They called him a sleazeball a lot.
Yeah,
and that was because he had the wet down hair and
wet mullet.
Yeah. So, but that dude, he had actually toned up. He had lost some weight, cut some weight. He toned up, and he was just up. Yeah, he just was leagues better in the ring at that point.
Yep.
So,
all right. Well, after this, they show the Shark and Scott Norton from the September 11th episode, and how they had backstage beef, and now we finally get a match with Shark and Scott Norton. If you guys don't remember who Shark is going to be in the 2025 Hall of Fame.
Yes, sir.
One half of the natural disasters, my man Earthquake. So Shark's taking out Scott Norton. And basically, when they got in the ring and they got busy, it was two big meaty men slapping meat. That's how it was. It started off good, and then Scott Norton showed off his strength, body slamming Shark like nothing. But while this match was taking place, we see Bobby Heenan sitting outside with Sonny Ono. You guys didn't know who it was at the time. That's Sonny Ono, candlelight dinner, eating some sushi.
Yep.
So I wonder what the hell that's all about.
Well, I mean, he ended up taking a wad of cash at the end. So I guess we'll find out what that meant in later episodes. But yeah, when you get back to the match, it was like you said. It was power on power. It was clumsy on clumsy. It was two guys that have very little technical ability battling it out in a wrestling ring, and everything you could imagine it would be is exactly what it was. Ultimately, it was, Shark getting knocked upside the head, and Norton getting the W.
Both men got counted out.
Yeah. That's right. They went out, and then they continued fighting after the match was over. They kept fighting, and Scott Norton decided to make use of the ring set. He used the WCW logo to part Shark's head. So, and then they just kept it on. So their feud, sadly, is not over. So it took 7 weeks to get this match, and sadly it's not over, so I'm hoping it doesn't take another 7 weeks to get here again. Because it did need to get here the first time, because...
That's right.
September 11th, it was what it was. They should have cleaned it up the next week. I have no idea why they waited 7 weeks. For what we got, there was no need for the wait for 7 weeks.
Yeah, people forgot about it, and they definitely don't remember this match. So.
Oh yeah. So in a month to 2 months' time, when they go and they do this again, and they have to play a flashback of everything all over again. Yeah. As Jimmy would say.
No yeet. All right. Well, we get our first appearance from Tony Schiavone on Nitro. Usually this Mean Gene spot. Not sure where he's at today, but Tony Schiavone's here. Yeah. And then they show the footage of Flair turning on Sting, and he's helping out Pillman and Arn Anderson. And then they throw that back up. They throw the fours up, and that they just tell you that the Four Horsemen are back. And then Tony interviews Arn, Pillman, and Ric Flair. Mm-hmm. And Flair basically said, like it or not, the Horsemen are back together, and next Monday they will be in town. So Sting, come see us, basically.
Yep. Now, my thing is, I don't know. You always, no matter the iteration of the Four Horsemen, you always have Arn, who's always pretty laid back. You always have Rick, who's a little excitable. But depending on the other two guys that come in, like Flying Brian was just a clown. I don't know what he was just over happy and overjoyed, I guess would be the way to say it. I was like, okay. You made it.
He's slowly developing into the loose cannon.
Yeah, well, this is a real slow burn, because I think, what was it? We're talking 2 years before he becomes the loose cannon in WWE. So but yeah, he was very excitable, and I was just looking at him like, man, I forgot he didn't seem like a good fit in the beginning. He didn't really seem like a good fit in the beginning.
No. So let me ask you, what's your favorite version of the Horseman?
dude, it's always going to be the original for me.
What Oli?
It's going to be the original for me.
Okay.
It's always going to be the original for me. It's like you can only reinvent the wheel so many times. The original, and there was. It all made sense. It all made sense. You had Oli, you had Arn, you had Tully, you had Ric Flair. They did the thing. They rode the roads together. They did all that stuff. So when they became the Four, it just made sense. It's like you just kept bringing guys in and shuttling them out, and it just got weirder and weirder with each iteration. So always the original is always going to be the one for me because of the fact that these guys all came up together. These guys all battled together. They rode the roads together. They did all of that together. After that, it was just basically Rick and Arn and whoever they felt like adding in. It wasn't the same after that.
All right, well, you got me by a few years, and I grew up watching Rick, Arn, Benoit, and Malenko. That was when I was a kid growing up. But when I'm talking about, like, I can actually remember. But knowing who was, in the Horsemen and going back and rewatching. So my favorite version of the Four Horsemen is Rick. Of course, you got J.J. Dillon. He's automatic.
Yeah.
Arn Anderson. My man Tully Blanchard, who was badass, who I had the pleasure of meeting. Tully. And Barry Windham.
I can't argue with that.
Then you had, you take Barry out, then you put Sting in, which that wasn't going to work. Then you had Luger in it. Luger looked amazing, but he wasn't a Four Horseman. You had Pretty Paul Roma. You had him in there too. That was terrible. Oh,
as I said, that it's just it after. And I mean, so I guess to that point, after Ollie Anderson and after Barry Windham, it really started to not make sense.
Yeah.
It started to not make sense because at least you could still Barry Windham and Flair had a history, so so that made sense. And I guess they tried to reinvent the wheel with Sting because Sting and Flair had a history, but it just wasn't the same because Sting was never. He was never that guy that you could see being on the dark side of the tracks per se. You could see Ole Anderson being on the dark side of the tracks. You could see Barry Windham being on the dark side of the tracks. You could see those guys doing whatever they needed to do to advance the Four Horsemen. You didn't see that with Sting. Sting was always going to be the popular guy. He was going to be the fan favorite. If things run afoul, he's always going to be the guy that's going to be like, "Hey, what's going on here?" And when you're Four Horsemen, regardless of whether they were heel or face, they were always the group that was going to do whatever it needed to be done to get the job done. And Sting was not that guy back then.
Sting was so out of place. He had face paint. Like, come on now.
Yeah, Sting was not that. Yeah, Sting was not that guy. And like I said, Pillman was just really getting into his heel phase per se, because he had just turned heel not too far before that. And he was, like you said, I guess you could say he was building up the loose cannon gimmick that lasted, 2 years before he went to WWE.
Yeah.
And, but even that didn't make sense because the Four Horsemen were never known for being, out of whack. They were always so calculated. They were always, every move had a counter move, Every move they made was intentional. And Pillman was not that guy. He was literally a loose cannon. He would just pop off, like when he DDT'd Eddie Guerrero, just because it was Saturday, it was a Monday. So at least it somewhat worked with Malenko and Benoit because they were like that. But then again, at that point, Malenko had the personality of a wet noodle. Yeah. Chris Benoit hadn't developed his character as of yet. He was more just I'm gonna fight and let my wrestling do the talking.
Yep.
So yeah. Yep.
That's our Four Horsemen rant.
Our four horsemen rant. Our Four Horsemen rant.
Yes. All right. So after this, we have Sabu taking on the Disco Inferno. Disco Inferno, he's still hot. Every week he's on TV, and he's showboating doing his dance, but Sabu wasn't having that.
No.
Yeah,
no.
he whooped on Disco. He whooped on Disco.
Yeah, he let Disco know that them dance moves wasn't gonna work here.
Nah.
He yeah, he whooped that ass.
Yeah, so Sabu got the win with the I'm not sure what the name. It was like the sunset flip over the top rope.
Yeah, it was a weird looking move.
It wasn't
like it wasn't any
like that. Yeah,
it wasn't the guillotine. It wasn't the Arabian face buster. It wasn't any of his finishes that I knew of. It was like he tried to do a Hurricane Conrada type move that ended up turning into a off the top rope leg drop.
Yeah,
it was the weirdest thing, but it worked. He got the W.
He got the win. And after the match, he took Disco out, and they did like some weird looking suplex over the top rope, and
that looked like it basically Sabu gets up and no sells it, so it looks like it's an offensive move for Sabu, but it was really a Disco power bomb. He literally power bombed Sabu into the mat, and Sabu got up and no sold it. So that was like, what a great suplex by Sabu. I'm like, no, he got power bombed just now. He got power bombed.
Yep. And then Sabu grabs the table and he clocks Disco with it. He sets it up, and this is not your gimmick table that you see on WWE.
Oh no,
this is the actual table. Like he tried to do like the sunset flip over the top rope onto Disco.
Disco changed. Man, I promise you, it looked like Disco was like, "Oh, I'm supposed to lay here." No, I'm not doing that. Like the way he got up, I'm like, wait, was he supposed to get up? Like, was he supposed to get out of the way? Like, he literally got up like, oh no, I'm not doing this, and he just moved out the way. And the way Sabu landed like he was expecting a body to be there. So
Sabu got off the table. He was pissed,
mad, and that was the other thing. He was hot,
and the table didn't even break.
Oh, the table did not break. The table didn't even bend. The table didn't even bend, let alone break. So that's why I was like, I think Disco went into business for himself. He was like, I'm not gonna get messed up on this table. He's not gonna do to me what he's done to everybody else he's wrestled in his matches. So he literally just was like, nah, I'm good. And then he kind of faked off like he was hurt, but he ran out of there quick enough where Sabu couldn't cancel.
Yeah. But you know what? We have something with Sabu. Why didn't WCW capitalize and keep Sabu? We know that he went to ECW. There was a sign in the crowd that said Sabu is WCW's Evel Knievel.
Yeah.
So you having a sign in the crowd, you standing out. You doing something right. He's getting a reaction every time he's on TV. Why didn't they keep this guy?
I think the problem is with the same reason with the cruisers, the same thing with the cruiserweights. You know, hardcore wrestling at that time wasn't big. It wasn't the thing. You know, this is before Cactus Jack. This is before Terry Funk went into his hardcore phase. So they were trying to keep everything neat and clean. There wasn't really a whole lot of dangerous matches out there like there is now, where a Sabu would really lean in and really be able to take over. Back in the early and mid 90s, there wasn't a whole lot of that. There just wasn't. And to that effect, we talked about it with the cruiserweights. You know how WCW brought the cruiserweights on. Well, guess what? ECW brought on Extreme.
Yep.
So ECW is what made table matches and ladder matches and all these matches that were in territories forever, because the territories had death matches and bull rope matches and all this stuff like that, but it wasn't really televised. They didn't put it on TV. They didn't want people to see it because they didn't want people grossed out by it. So it wasn't a popular thing back in the mid-90s until ECW showed that it could be something that could be done, and done in a way that people are going to accept it and love it. It just was what it was.
Yep. Excuse me. Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. Mm-hmm. It is what it was, and at this time in late '95, it hasn't picked up yet.
Yep, it has not picked up yet.
Yeah. All right. Well, after this, we see Lex Luger and Meng, and they are with Jimmy Hart and Kevin Sullivan, and they are about to take on the American Males, former IDM podcast guests Scotty Riggs and Marcus Buff Bagwell. And Scotty, he got some offense on Luger.
Yep.
You can see they thought maybe he might be that guy for the baby faces, but turned out to be Buff eventually. But once he was getting his offense in, Meng, he had to interfere, and then he got Scotty in like a bear hug and Luger with that big ass clothesline. Then after that, Luger just hits the torture rack on Scotty, and my God, Luger and Meng are your winners.
So I have notes here for this match.
What you got, brother? What you got?
And this is regarding Luger versus Meng. Luger and Meng versus the American Males. Fell asleep on the match. Luger puts Bagwell in the torture rack, and it's over. That's the notes. That's the notes. I was watching. I was like, dude, I don't know what it was, because I mean, we've seen matches with the American Males and Harlem Heat, and the matches were actually decent. They were decent. And it's not like Lex Luger's never been in a tag match before, and it's not like Meng has never been in a tag match before. But something between these four just didn't work. They did what they did. It basically became a squash. It was a squash with hope of it not being a squash. Mm-hmm. That's essentially what it was. But then, of course, you had to know they were not going to allow Luger and Meng to lose their first match as a tag team. And you knew at some point the males were going to get rolled on, which you would think for a team that's on the rise you wouldn't do that to them, but they did that to them. And that's what it was. After the match was another in-ring promo, and this time Shivani basically joins everybody in the ring.
Yep, they show the footage of Hogan and Giant from Halloween Havoc. So you want to know the reason why Luger is with Jimmy Hart? You want to know why Jimmy Hart and Luger is on the dark side right now? Well, they show the footage. Hogan was going for the pin on the Giant, but the ref was knocked down, or he got tripped, because Jimmy Hart he tripped him up. And then Jimmy and Hogan helps the ref out. Then Jimmy clocks Hogan with the title. Then Hogan, what are you doing, brother? What are you doing? And then Jimmy instructed Dungeon of Doom to take out Hogan. Right. Then after this, Luger and Savage, they come down to the ring. And Jimmy clocks Savage. And then Luger starts beating Savage down.
Yep.
Then after this, we get the Yeti. We got some big-ass mummy walking down to the ring. The Giant has Hogan in a bear hug, and then the Yeti just comes behind him, grabs him by the waist,
and just Oreos him like I've never seen anything. I can't even begin to explain to you how awkward it was to see these three grown-ass men basically sandwiching in the middle of the ring. It was just awful. Like, I understood he was in a bear hug, okay. But Yeti comes in, and he basically just humps Hogan from behind. It's the weirdest thing. I don't understand what they thought they were doing here. I don't know. Like, I'm like, okay, when have I ever seen a double team maneuver like this before? And the answer was never. And when have I seen it since? The answer is still never. So,
guys, you guys know the Giant Big Show, Paul White. He's at least 7'1".
He's at least 7'1", 7'2". This guy,
the Yeti, Ron Reese, he's at least 7'4", 5', 6".
Yeah, he's 7'6".
He's 7'6" with baby arms. Just imagine that.
Not enough rapping.
He don't have a
reach
in
the world.
He does not have a reach whatsoever.
He is a 7'6" Chris Benoit.
You being generous.
Like I don't think his hands reached his waist. I don't know.
No, like seriously,
I don't know.
His arms.
Like, I don't think I've ever seen him anywhere else ever in wrestling until outside of this moment. And
You've seen him. Yeah, he was in the flock.
Remember.
The flock.
That's who he was?
Yeah, that's Ron Reese.
Lord.
Don't worry, we gonna get there in a few years.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Oh my God! But yeah, and then Luger with the torch rack, and that brings us to today. This is why the Giant's out here with the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, and Tony's interviewing these guys, and Jimmy Hart is saying him and the Taskmaster has a past, and the Giant and Luger are his future. And then Kevin Sullivan is on the ground imitating Hogan, convulsing and whatnot. Yeah, and Luger said it's all about the belt. And the Giant said next week he will defend the title to whoever wants that shot. And then Kevin Sullivan said this will happen when Hulk Hogan surrounded the cloud of the Dungeon of Doom all around him.
Yeah. So to give a little context, over the weeks Kevin Sullivan had kept mentioning that there was evil. And I legitimately thought he was saying that there was evil in Hogan's heart. Well, what he's actually saying is that there's evil in Hogan's house. And Jimmy Hart says, well, Kevin Sullivan was right. I've been the evil in your house all along. So there was that. The history is that Kevin Sullivan has only had one manager in his entire career, and it was Jimmy Hart. So that's kind of where the past thing comes in. The Giant, literally, he stole the belt, which is why he has it. Luger took offense to being called a dog. So I guess that's why he's in it, because he got offended by being called a dog. I don't know. Because everybody else wants the WCW Heavyweight Championship too, but you joined the Dungeon of Doom, and currently the Giant has it, and you're not winning it from him, so do you really want the belt? I don't know. That goes without saying, but it was, the promo was at the end of the episode, so
that's how the show ended.
Yeah, that's how the show ended. The show ended with that. So I will ask you.
Here we go.
I will ask you for your moment of the night, my friend, because what was your moment of the night?
Man, I thought about this long and hard about this. What was my moment of the night? Not a damn thing when the show ended, man. This show was trash, man. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I couldn't think of nothing. I was like, Eddie and Pittman. Eddie was getting his ass whipped.
Yeah, Eddie looked out of his element a little bit. He did. But he still did what he had to do to look presentable in the match. While
Shark and Norton, nope.
Was a waste of time.
Waste of time. The Horseman promo
was ass.
And then Scotty Riggs and Marcus Buff Bagwell going against Luger and Meng. No.
That match was not it.
Sabu and Disco. No.
Disco went to kangaroo court over that, because that's where he moved on his own. He was supposed to lay there. He was supposed to lay there. Which is why that table didn't break, because it was like they made sure that table had to have two bodies to go through. Yeah. It was only one. So, yeah. But I think if I had to say that there was a moment in the match that was not the end, it was definitely that first Craig Pittman suplex on Eddie Guerrero, where I thought he killed him. I thought he absolutely killed him.
That was sick.
So
that was real sick.
But as far as any matches, nah, there were.
No. No, ye. All right, well, my segment, what was on the other channel? Yep. October 30th, 1995, Monday Night Raw. We have Goldust taking on Savio Vega.
Okay.
I wonder if that's the first time when he, was in the corner rubbing on his chest. I think
it could be. It could be. I might have to go watch Raw today to see if that was it. we'll have to follow up on the next episode, and I'll let you know if that was indeed the night where he was basically feeling himself literally in the corner.
All right, so after this, we got Marty Jannetty taking on Joe Dorgan. You mentioned Joe Dorgan before. Who is he again? Johnny Swinger?
Yeah, I think he's Johnny Swinger, if I'm not mistaken. He is Johnny Swinger.
All right, well, that match is short. You ain't got to look it up. That's 2 minutes and 46 seconds.
Yep.
All right, well, we have some tag team title match right here. We have the Smoking Guns, Billy and Bart, taking on John Reckner and Phil Apollo. I don't know who these two dudes are.
So this.
Oh wow! Hold on. You know Phil Reckner.
Phil Reckner?
Yeah, you know who that is.
Let's see. Who is?
I mean John Reckner. Excuse me.
John Reckner. Hold on.
John Reckner is Balls Mahoney.
Oh wow. So before he was Balls Mahoney, he wrestled under
And yes,
okay.
I don't know who Phil Apollo is, but it doesn't matter. Well, Balls Mahoney. He was in WWF a few times. Cause remember Santa Claus? Remember him?
Yeah.
That was Balls Mahoney.
So. Yeah, I just saw a picture of Phil Apollo. Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know. And your main event.
Wait.
What?
So wait. So he has ring names. So we're gonna run these names off, and you tell me if you recognize one. You ready?
Who, Apollo or Reckner?
Apollo.
All right.
The American Playboy, Apollo the Greek, Phil Apollo, Phil Pantos, the Playboy, Vince Apollo, Doink the Clown.
I thought it was Doink.
He is a version.
For some reason, I thought his name was Ray Apollo.
He was a version of Doink. Now, whether he was the original Doink,
no, he's not.
But he was a Doink.
There's like 10 versions of Doink, but it doesn't matter. We will never do a Doink the Clown episode. Never.
No. We will never talk about what wrestling that made us and if they ever talk about Doink the Clown. It's never gonna happen.
If somebody chooses a Doink the Clown match, make it worthwhile.
Yeah, they're getting drop kicked.
Yep.
So.
All right, and your main event for the Intercontinental Championship, we have Razor Ramon defending the title against Owen Hart with Jim Cornette in this corner.
Okay. See, that's worth it compared to what's on the other channel.
You got Raw tonight.
Razor Ramon versus Owen Hart makes it worth it more than everything else that was on that card. Like the rest of the card is suspect, but that match makes it worth it compared to what was left.
So you think
because the gut of this show was ass. So, and especially come on, if this is the night where Goldust was going crazy in the corner, that itself is funny as shit. That in of itself will make the show for some interesting TV. But that I think that Razor Ramon Owen Hart match, anytime you can see Owen Hart wrestle, I'll run with that too. Especially if you get ass like we got on this episode of Nitro.
Well, I haven't done this in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Raw had a 2.1 rating.
Really?
Nitro had a 2.3. So it was neck and neck.
Wow.
It was neck and neck.
You know what? I'm willing to bet you anything that 2.3 rating was because it was a fallout of Halloween Havoc.
Yeah.
If that show stood on its own merits with no Halloween Havoc to speak of, that show would have rated like a negative 2.8. That show was ass. It was ass. Ass.
I'll tell you this. So, the last time Raw beat Nitro, since we've been recording since 9/11/95, Raw won the debut episode of Nitro, 2.5, 2.4. Then the following week, they won a 2.7 to 1.9. And then that September 25th episode, Nitro won 2.7 to 1.9. Wow, they loaded it up. I don't even remember that card. And then the first two shows in October, it was a tie. 2.5 and 2.6. Raw won on the 16th of October. Nitro, the 23rd, and this episode we're doing today. And next week, Raw wins.
Yeah.
So, we're going to see. But this closed the month of October. And then next week, in the month of November, first episode, November 6th, 1995, we have the Giant. Remember, he said he's going to defend his title against anybody.
Yep.
He's going to defend his title against Cobra. Oh, Lord. We have the Taskmaster taking on the Renegade. Oh, my Lord. We have Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit. Okay, I can dig that one again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then your main event for United States Championship, we have Sting taking on Ric Flair.
So
we got two out of 4.
Yeah. Well,
so
let me
what was the dark
this
matches for this Halloween show right here?
Okay. So the dark matches saw the American males doing double duty. So the American males had to face off against Harlem Heat, and they won by DQ. It was for the tag team titles. They didn't win the titles because it was a DQ. The other match saw Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff defeat Mr. JL. That was it.
Jesus.
And it disappoints me because they had quite a good run of. They had a decent amount of talent, and they're just not using anybody. They're just not using anybody at this moment.
Well, our next pay-per-view for WCW is World 3. So that's when you get the 3 rings, the big 60-man battle royal. Mm-hmm. That's coming up in the month of November, and
so hopefully, they'll have no choice but to use people. They need 60 of them.
I'm curious. Let me see something right quick. When did WCW go 2 hours? May 96.
Yep.
So they went from May to 96, and then once January 97 happened, they went to 3 hours. They tripping.
And I mean, when did, and my counter to that is, because I do remember there was a pretty decent amount of time where I was able to watch Raw end, and then I was able to just go to Nitro and watch the last hour.
Yeah, and then you just go right back and go watch it. Yep.
Yeah. But of course, if you look up when did Raw go to 2 hours now, it tells you about when it fell back to 2 hours with this last. Doesn't really talk about way back in the day when it started out as an hour and then it shifted off to 2. Doesn't really talk about that anymore. So I'm trying to find that now as to when that happened.
So we got 6 months till we watch a 2-hour episode.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm cool with these.
The 1 hour episodes are very easy to watch. Yeah, they're very easy to watch. Well, let me be clear. They're easy to watch time-wise.
Yes.
They may not be necessarily easy to watch episode-wise, but time-wise, they're easy to watch. Let me see. Yeah, so Raw didn't go to 2 hours until February of '97. So,
so they had the whole.
They had a 6 to 7 month. They had a 6-7 month head start on Raw for before Raw kicked in 2 hours. So,
all right,
good stuff.
Well, BDC.
Yup.
Till next time, kick off the month of November 1995.
Yep.
And see what they got stored for us.
Yeah.
It's an interesting ride right now. It's like that, you know. It starts off hot, and then it slowed down, and picking back up, and then all right, here we go again.
That's pretty much what it's doing right now. But
basically, that's what it is.
Yep. I mean, it's going to hit a point where it's just going to get hot and heavy because those NWO shows. Oh my God, we're going to have a lot to talk about during those shows. And even when they start developing some of the storylines that lead into the NWO, we'll have some stuff to talk about.
That's for sure.
Just have to make it through right now.
Until then, I'm Notorious One. I am Dom. I'm here, my man BDC, and we will see you guys next week. Boom.